fellow YouTubers, it's me again. Today we're going to do a review on things that I have been finally wanting to do reviews on. Unfortunately, one of them is in a plastic. I was going to do it in one video, all of them, but I decided not to since I did a previous video on AliExpress knockoffs. Well, guess what? We have more here. However, I'm going to put one of them aside because today we're going to do a review on astromons. But we're going to show these other ones in the next video, and I actually even thought about doing a knockoff comparison. So today's review is on a monster called astromons. He is known as the giant space monster, almost a similar name as Bemstar, who I don't have, but I have a monster that is similar to it. In fact, he even is one of them. So here is the brand new AliExpress astromons from Ultraman Taro. See? Now, I believe this is a knockoff of the Spark Doll one, but whether it's a knockoff or not, I really like the scale of it though. It's much bigger, which is fantastic, because there's not too many larger scale astromons apart from the X+, but I'm not getting an X+. I don't know why, in my view it looks blue, but on the camera it's going to look gray, but we'll explain about that later. First, let's just cut the tag off very carefully. Oh wow, this is pretty cool. Although I should try to poke that thing in so that it doesn't, it's not sharp stuff. It's hard to poke it in actually. I'm trying to... There, I think I got it. I can't feel it anymore, so that's good. So anyways, here is astromons. Now, he was a monster that was very, he's not as known, but he was well known enough. In fact, he's known to be the first kaiju in the Ultraman Taro series. He was the first monster to appear. But we'll explain the history later. First, let's get on to the... So this is from, I just called this the AliExpress Bandai, even though I don't know if it is. It says it's from Subaraya Productions. Now, you can't see it, but this is a picture of astromons on the nighttime, and this is him fighting with Ultraman Taro. He is, now, if you want, you can pause that to translate it, but I believe that tells his superpowers and stuff. He is 60 meters tall and 5,800 or whatever that is pounds, or whatever that is. I'm not good at estimating. But anyway, let's take a look at this figure, shall we? So as far as the details, he's not going to be too detailed since he's not only a copy, but because he's more for the kids. He doesn't have too much of a terrible detail. In fact, his teeth are, for an example, painted. And I like the red horn and nasal horn that he has. And he actually at first looks like some fish creature, but the rest of it just leads up to this rocky skin design. It's like he's like a rock almost. I like how one hand is like a fish hook, although it doesn't look too much like a fish hook. And he has thorns and stuff. Kind of reminds me of a rose. Imagine if it was based on a rose, but he's not actually based on a rose. And he has two tails that I don't know why, but they look kind of cool. I don't think I have a creature that has two tails. Actually, I do, but it's not really tails. It's more like tentacles, but we'll show you that later. I also love the flower that he has. Imagine you were probably giving this to someone that you love and say, hey, here are your roses. In the end, it's this scary thing that just pretty much eats you, which we'll also explain the powers of. But anyway, yeah. So he has the nice detail on the flower, which is like a gourd thing or something. And he has nice fur details and stuff. Kind of has a swampy fur. It's very strange, his design. At first, you would also think he even would go in the water, but no, this creature, in fact, I mostly call him a plant creature because he actually came out of the ground, although the type of plant that he's based on, which is like a tigress flower, was actually from space, and that's also why they gave him the space monster name. He was based on a type of flower that was from space, and that's also why they call him astromons. It's like cosmic monster. And he eventually came out of the ground in Earth. So, yeah. So, overall, the details on him are actually quite nice, considering I paid, I don't know, a cheaper price, and for him being sort of a copy of the Spark Doll Astromons. Pretty nice. I love it, and he looks a lot realistic than, even the older ones, to be honest. Now let's get on to the articulation. Now this one only has 3, which in fact one of them is actually hidden. The arms can like move 360 degrees, but you actually have to like pull them apart so that it doesn't scrape. You pretty much are gonna just not move it that much at all, so that you can like do this type of thing, or you can like position it and stuff. You can, I don't know, smack some creature like that, or any enemy that he wants to fight, or you could just leave it like that. What does move nicer but still has a problem is the whip arm, which kind of reminds me of Gudon, can rotate 360 degrees. However, like with the arm, it does also get in the way. In fact, because of how the arm is cut, it almost looks like it fits perfect like that. But you can just use them to whip and stuff, and I like the paint job and details as well. Now, this one, now the articulating point is like the Spark Doll one, although it's slightly different, and we'll explain why. His torso can rotate 360 degrees, which I'm not so sure why would you use that, but I guess you can just make him like, rah, like you can make him shake around and stuff. Sometimes monsters tend to do that also. The only parts that are missing articulating points, unlike the Spark Doll one, is the tail and the head. The head unfortunately does not rotate, or the tail. In fact, they're all glued into one piece. But that's okay. In fact, I think it would look weird for the tail to articulate anyways, or even the head. I don't know. But anyways, that's the articulating points and the details. Now let's get on to sizing. Now, he is 60 meters tall, like 6'0", not 62 or whatever. We're going to compare him to a kaiju. Let's compare him with Vakashim first. In fact, even though they are different race of monsters, I do like how they have the crazy hands and stuff that are not even fingers. I believe, yeah, this is actually accurate, although Vakashim should be a little bit taller, but because of his horn, he somehow does get away with it. Because Vakashim is actually like 65 meters or something, and he is just 60, so this is kind of okay, although I do wish he was taller. But thankfully with the horn, he does kind of, I don't know. To me, he looks okay, although I think Vakashim should be bigger. Now let's compare him to another monster that actually was in the same show, or in the same series as well, Tyrant. Now, you may think at first they should be the same size, or he should be bigger. No, this is actually correct. Tyrant is 62 meters, and he is 60 meters. So, scaling with Tyrant is perfect. What about with another Choji that has crazy hands? Baraba from Ultraman Ace. The sizing is not perfect. He should actually be a lot taller. He's like 70 meters. Another one that's, and that's the problem with some monsters or Ultra Heroes, they're like not perfect scale. This is probably the worst one. He's supposed to be much taller, but he's not. Same with this one. This one here was King Crab. This one here is Brocken. This one, by the way, has 2 tail things as well. And they were actually from the same series, except I don't consider these as tails, though, because at the same time they're tentacles. But whatever. He doesn't go well with that one either, unfortunately. I wish he did, but that's the sad case. Let's compare him to another monster that also he appeared with. Gamora from Ultraman. Now, this is perfect, the scaling. You may think Now, some people, if you don't know, Gomorrah is like 40 meters tall, and he is 60 meters, so this is fantastic. Thank God. Thank God the scaling was perfect. How about Sadora from Ultraman Jack? He also has a crazy looking hand. I don't know about Sadora. I think he's also 60, but I'm not so sure. If anything, they do look okay, whichever which. What about Red King? Red King is perfect. He's 40 meters also. Great. What about the newer King Kong? Well, depending on the scale of it, in fact, since this one is 100, this is actually a good scaling, because if you're using the newer one, or if you want him to be in the newer scale, which is like the Legendary series, he's actually supposed to be larger, which is how it should be. But if you want King Kong to be his regular size, I don't know, I think it looks okay. What about an Ultra Hero? Ultraman Jack. It's perfect! Thank goodness! Astromons should be a tiny bit bigger, but this is perfect. Oh my gosh. He's gonna get a very good score on that. What about a Kraken? That'll be interesting. Kraken looks okay. Depends on the scale. Ultraman Jack? Yup, it's perfect. Wait, did I compare this one? Yeah, I did. Well, both Ultramans do scale well with him anyways, so that's perfect. What about Godzilla? Imagine a kind of like a dinosaur versus dinosaur creature. This looks okay. If you scale him to 50, he's not a bad scale, but if you compare him to 100, maybe not so much. Unfortunately, that one's 100. What about Neronga? This is perfect as well. I don't know about King Ghidorah. Unfortunately, they're the same size. I think King Ghidorah should be a little bit bigger. Well, actually, he kind of is bigger than him. So I guess this is okay. In fact, you can even have like a tag team and stuff. What about Duraco? Duraco, I don't know. I think he should be a little bit smaller, but it's okay. A Yeti, I don't even know why I brought him. Probably because of Woo. King Caesar looks interesting. I don't know about the scale for King Caesar. If I didn't care, he looks okay anyways. What about a tractor trailer? I know it sounds weird, why do I scale with it? Because I might do, let's say, movies where they're like destroying cities and stuff. Yeah, this looks good to me. I like it. Ooh, and I forgot two more actually. Or three more things. Here's an oil refinery that he goes well with. It looks perfect. In fact, he can even use it like the Bemstar, his Gorg thing, which he actually did use. That's perfect. What about the Mr. Stay Puft Man? Unfortunately, the scale is not correct unless you want to have a giant Stay Puft. He looks okay, I guess, but if you want the scale to be perfect, like accurate, he should be taller than Stay Puft. Although, even if Stay Puft was bigger, you wouldn't defeat him because Stay Puft is quite a weak monster, even with his gigantic size. Although I do have a monster that is not weak and is actually very dangerous. Mechagodzilla from the newer Godzilla series. Well, he looks a little bit taller, although they look like they're the same size. So if he's bigger than him, it's not bad because he's 100. Although if you want Mechagodzilla to be in a regular size, like let's say 60 or 50, he looks okay, I guess. In fact, they do look good for like an antagonist team thing, whatever it is. So, yeah. So that's the scale with him. He actually scaled very well with most of the monsters. I'm very happy. Because since I have the three monsters, I don't have any other ones, but since I have stuff like Gamora and Tyrant, because they appeared in a show together or a movie, these look fantastic. Thank goodness, because usually I know, and I've seen a lot of people get very frustrated with the size. So now you know that maybe these copy variants are not that bad. Although you have to be careful which one you choose. But anyway, yeah. So now we're gonna get on to the history for this monster. So astromons appeared in the first episode of Ultraman Taro. He was a plant that I believe came in space. Now, it will explain. Now, I could explain the story also about Ultraman Taro, but since I'm just focusing on this guy and I don't have him either, I'm just gonna tell the review on this guy. All I know is that he was originally a plant that came from space, and one of the members, I don't remember who, captured the plant. For some reason, they decided to plant it in on Earth, somewhere in a city or something. When in his flower form, he was like spraying this yellow stuff that pretty much knocked out all the pollen flowers. And it was not very good, although at the same time, before he became his normal size, that a monster called Oil Drinker, who was a Choju. He looks more like a generic dinosaur, but he's part of the Choju series, which is like the Velocron, Doragori, Vakashim thing, whatever. Anyway, yeah. So, after that incident with Oil Drinker, or whatever that monster was, I think it was at nighttime, and that's when they went to the oil refinery. Astromons came out of the ground. Now, I'm pretty sure Astromons was like already in his form, but the flower just grew for some reason. Whatever it is, he came out of the ground like, you know, like the living dead, blah blah blah. He went to an oil refinery like this, and we're just going to use King Crab, even though he's not the same monster, but they look very similar. In fact, they both have the fish scales. They were both fighting and stuff, and there was a part where Oil Drinker decided to run toward, then that's what usually monsters do. Unfortunately, this monster was not smart enough to realize that the flower stomach was more of like a Venus flytrap than just some, oh, it's so beautiful, I should just give this to someone that I love. No, you should never, because this was a Venus flytrap. In fact, once the head got inside, it got stuck, and the thing just literally swallowed him like this. Dump, 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 dump. And it had its eyes rolling up and down, which was just really freaky. I was actually pretty horrified, or I was like really in shock, because it wasn't just because a monster that is like the same size as him would fit inside of him, and you're probably thinking, geez, that's crazy, how can he fit that? He probably had an acid inside, like the stomach acid, to where it can like dissolve things instantly. That's probably what happened when it went inside, because there's no way you could just have it still alive inside of the body. Also, because he was based on a series called the Super Ability Monsters, it was trying to show that monsters like Doragori were not strong enough. Oops. Unfortunately, the video somehow cut off. I don't know how. What I meant is that it was trying to show that these monsters were a lot stronger than, not only like stronger than the regular, like the terrible monsters, but it was pretty much going to be stronger than any other monsters. Maybe not to the Ultras, but whatever. So he basically ate the whole monster with his flower thing, which is unfortunately, and I found out that his powers and similarities is very much like the Bemstar monster. In fact, his suit was eventually modified for the reconstruction Bemstar, which looks similar to the regular Bemstar, but is slightly different. It has a taller head. But we're not going to get into that. Anyway, yeah. So, that's what happened, and I think it was like the next day or something, the TAC team, whatever they, the TAC team, I believe, were attacking the monster, like, generically, like all, like, the people do in different series. Eventually, Ultraman Taro appeared, like the guy who transforms into him. He eventually transformed into Ultraman Taro, I forget the host name, and they actually had a pretty good battle. In fact, astromons, even though for some reason in Taro series some monsters may look like the weak monsters, no, he was pretty good. He was, you know, he did have a pretty good role and stuff. Like, he did kick his butt pretty good. Although eventually, he was able, Ultraman Taro got the upper hand and basically beat him and stuff. And he had to use this specium ray and eventually blew him into pieces in the middle of the flower. And he exploded and died. So, yeah. Now, unfortunately, not too many people know about this because most people think that that was the only appearance of astromons. He shockingly had one more appearance in the Ultra series, except it was in a movie called it's called The Six Ultra Brothers versus the Monster Army team, and along with Gamora and Tyrant, they all fought the Ultra Brothers and stuff. Although eventually there was a very shocking scene to where the body parts of Astromon got cut off by, I think it was by Hanuman, and Hanuman did this crazy trick or whatever to where he had no head, no arm, and they were like dancing and stuff, and then he eventually exploded. But yeah, he did make, like, so overall he made his appearance with Ultraman Taro, and then he appeared in the Special Monster Army movie along with Gamora himself and Tyrant. And actually, he was pretty good, like, fighting in the Hanuman movie anyways, which was called The Six Ultra Brothers versus the Monster Army. So yeah, so I'm just gonna put these out. So overall, Astromons is probably one of the best figures I ever got, not because of his details. I'm pretty much gonna give him I was gonna give him a 9, but we're gonna give him a 10 out of a 10. Details are good, the articulation is okay, paint job is good, and the scaling is fantastic. So yeah, I hope you enjoy, and see you guys later. I'm gonna eat you with my flower!